Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today in War Thunder it's time to have a look at some of the changelogs that have happened, basically yesterday. Two quite important things happened in the game. Basically the removal of ghost shells and also some economy changes. So in this video we're going to talk about both ideas and also give a quick mention to a wonderful video made about the T-34 family by War Thunder. It is 10 minutes long. It talks about every different T-34, its place in history. I would definitely recommend it if you want kind of a quick overview of the legendary T-34 and what it got up to, especially in World War II and post World War II. So the first update, so 1.89.1.109, the current bug where in some rare cases shells would pass through vehicles without interacting with them has been fixed, or as it's colloquially known, ghost shells. So they've said here that in the rare cases where it happened, it has been fixed. Now understand, a lot of people have taken this as that the situation is fully fixed. Understand that if you read this properly, it isn't talking about that. It's talking about some instances, such as the rare cases, where they would go through. Does this mean that they've fully fixed the issue? Maybe. Does this mean that we know for sure that all of the ghost shells in the game are going to be disappearing and going? No, of course not. So what you have to take this as they realize that there is an issue there. They also realize that they are fixing it, and as you can see, they have already taken positive steps to remove certain aspects of it. Now, whether that means that they've 100% removed it or not, only time will tell with examples and ideas from people. Now, ghost shells, at least for me, haven't really affected me that much. I can remember one instance in a live game where ghost shells definitely affected me, and then there was instances in the test drive, 2 of them, where I did experience the ghost shell phenomenon. Now, to me, this would be seen as a rare case, since I play the game every day. I, hardly see ghost shells, but I can understand a lot of people seeing them a lot, whether it's based on internet connection, whether it's based on something in the files, who knows? But at least there have been steps taken to reduce them. What has been odd is the reaction to this. So, a lot of people, for many months, especially since update 1.89 came out, were very annoyed about this issue. They were very annoyed about the bug of ghost shells. Many people wanted it fixed, many people wanted it ridden of, and now that we have, a changelog which is talking about it being rid of, all I see is pessimism from everywhere. I see a lot of it from places of communication. I see a lot of it from other content creators where they just don't agree that, or don't believe that this idea has been fixed. And it's just kind of disheartening in a way. You've got to at least take what is said at face value, do your own testing as well to prove or not prove, whether the phenomenon has been taken out of the game. But if your first point of call when reading this news is rubbish, they haven't taken them out of the game, it's an incredibly horrible mindset to have. Because it just means that, you're sat in an incredibly pessimistic mindset. And I hope for a lot of people who have this mindset, I hope it changes. Because otherwise, it's just going to be hell for you when we talk about going forward. Imagine, like, all parts of your life. Imagine if you have a problem in your life and it gets fixed. And then you just go, oh, well, it's obviously not fixed and it's just going to become a problem again. If you have that mindset, you are screwed, because it is going to be a problem which keeps continuing, because you're going to force it to continue. It's really bad on the mind. So if you are skeptical about this, go test it, go try and replicate how you created ghost shells before. And if you can't replicate them, then, be happy. If you are on the pessimistic side of things and you don't believe it's happened, then make sure to stay on top of the developers in the way of recording your stuff, recording your games. And if you do see ghost shells, then, chuck them at the forums so they can be fixed. This isn't a problem which no side doesn't want to get rid of. This isn't like a weird grand conspiracy where Gaijin are saying that it doesn't exist, or, they're saying that they don't want it fixed for some reason. Everybody wants this issue fixed, so it only makes sense to work together to get this done. And right now, at least from my point of view, I personally think this issue is fixed. So we'll see going forward if it does recur again. The next one was some economy changes on the 16th, mainly repair cost changes and recalculation of modification costs. There was also the Flying Dutchman battle task. We'll now refer to aircraft as the flying boats, so such as the PBM-3 Mariner. Well, that's lovely. And also, that was a sea voyage vehicle. If you didn't or weren't around at that time or weren't able to pick it up, maybe we're thinking about what Operation Summer vehicles we might see. Leave some comments in the description, because I am definitely interested to see what people think, especially after the IS-7 event last year. And also remember good old summer, with the FJ-4B, with its bullpups, with the new mechanic at the time. Anyway, let's get into the changes. So this is pretty much talking about the total modification required to spade a vehicle. So if the difference is in the red, as you can see, or a positive difference, that means that the machine has gained an amount of research which is higher than before, which means you need to play the machine more to spade the vehicle. It also means that each modification will be a little bit more expensive compared to before. If it's negative, then it will be easier to spade the vehicle. It's pretty much as simple as that. Now, some of these I find a little bit disheartening, but to be honest, overall, most of them seem to be generally good changes and have tried to keep them in line with each other. If you, instead of just looking at the differences, looking at the new costs, you can see that they're trying to standardize all of these costs across the board, with a few of them a little bit all over the place, depending on how many modifications they actually have, because obviously that is something that has to be, thought about. So a big buff, let's call it, to helicopters. It's now 40% easier to grind pretty much every helicopter in the game. They've made it so helicopters are a hell of a lot more accessible now, especially with the summer deals, and I'm sure also the November, the first of their anniversary sale, and also the December sale. There'll be a lot of opportunities to pick up helicopters and play them. They've made them very much lower in repair costs. They've increased their modifiers. They've increased the RP it is to research them, and they've decreased the RP it is to research them, and they've also now decreased modifications to research them. So everything on the helicopter front has gone down and is a positive for an individual community member. So make sure, if you haven't tried helicopters now, this is the time. There are some other vehicles which are definitely going to be a lot harder to spade now, especially ones that I've run into. The M113a1 Tow, which has gone up by 65.9% to 221,800 in total. If you don't know what this machine is, it's the Italian machine at 8.3, which has a tow launcher on the top of it. It's basically just an M113 with a tow and a 50. But the modifications, you can see it's 12,000 per modification, and then of course 17,000 here, 19,000 and 38,000 for an engine. And this could be made easier if they added some more rank 4 modifications, making it easier to get the transmission or engine, but 38,000 for an engine is just crazy. So this machine at 8.3 was already not looking that appealing, especially when you compare it to some of its compatriots, the Rakuten Jagdpanzer 2, the Warrior, the Type 89, stuff like the Bradley. All of these machines, I would say, are just better than this, either in the fact that they have scouting or they just have better capabilities of killing stuff. So seeing it go up in modification price it's kind of annoying. In a way, but I think overall, if we look at a lot of these vehicles, like if we look at the Bradley or if we look at the Challengers, most of these are positive changes. It seems like a lot of the lighter tanks, such as the 906, the Striker and the Warrior, they have been increased to bring them onto the same levels as medium tanks. So you can see here how the Chieftain Mark 10 and the Challenger Mark 2 are at 270, where the 906 and the Warrior are from 240 to 290. So even before, with light tanks and IFEs and stuff like that, they were a lot easier to spade than their MBT brothers, and I think that was just because of obviously how you play the game. But the issue is now is you see a lot of IFEs running around, especially in the 8-7 bracket, and it's really fun. You know, they're really fun to use. And with the scouting change, they've definitely become a little less productive, but they're still great. Some of the changes also got changed by very small amounts. They're not really going to make that much of a difference. But yeah, what seems to have been hit is the late rank 5 vehicles, which are a little bit lighter. And when it comes to the jets, it's kind of all over the board, which trying to make them standardized with each other. Moving on to the economy changes, which are the repair cost changes. There's a lot of these, so as usual, I picked out ones which I think are worth talking about. You can see the list here. When it comes to everything else, such as, you know, if you like a specific vehicle, make sure to click the link in the description so you can have a look for yourself and, you know, go through it yourself, since obviously that's incredibly important, because you should, you know, be able to see your own. You should be able to see the vehicles that you like, so why not have a look? The first one I want to talk about is the P51 Hna. Now, before we go through this, I just want to preface the numbers that you see here on the sheet are stock repair costs, and I'll prove it to you right now. So the realistic stock repair cost for the P51H is 12,450. In game, my spaded one is 16,409. So make sure to remember that. So these are your base prices. Now, something that I talked about yesterday on the fireside chat with Moxie, which I thought was a pretty good idea, was making the repair costs a little bit more scalable. So if you're in a stock vehicle, let's say if you're in a P51H, drop the base repair cost to like 8,000, but make it scale up to that 16,000 level. So you have a steeper scale up compared to before, but it is easier if you have a stock vehicle. I think that would be a nice change to the game, and it would make spading vehicles a lot easier, but it would mean that if people want to use them when they're spaded, they still have to pay the same price. So to see the P51H reduced by 1,600 is great. One of the issues with the P61H is that it gets dragged up into a lot of jet battles, and there are, at least in my experience, a lot of times where I feel kind of useless in it, but nowadays, with more 5.7s, with more 6.0s knocking about, you are at least, you're not going to run into a ton of jets like before, and also with the quantitative matchmaking idea, you know, where you can only have 4 7.3s in your game, it does mean that machines like this get a decent buff from that, because they're very good against vehicles at their BR or below, and they struggle against jets. That's basically how it works. So to see that go down makes me very happy, and it's just lovely to see. The F-84s as well, so both of them for America are going down by 1,600 and 2,500 respectively. I do think the F-84s are really good in air realistic. They're just fun to fly. They are incredibly fast for their tier, and if you use them or are good at head-oning, you can do a lot of damage. The real damage, though, that an F-84G can do, though, is or an F-84 in general, is in the bombing role, in the ground realistic role. So to see them get dropped here means that they'll be a lot more efficient when it comes to ground realistic, so you'll be able to run them with some of the lineups that you wouldn't previously, just because you were worried about losing Silver Lions. The next one is the F4U4B. So the F4U4B is an interesting case for me. The F4U4B that you see here is gone up to 24,000 stock. 24,000. And it's in a curious case, the F4U4B, because I have personally done quite well in this vehicle. I have no idea how I've done quite well in this vehicle. It doesn't feel like, to me, a very good vehicle, but when I look at my stats, at least the preliminary ones that I've used, if I can find them. Let's see, F4U4B. You see 20 and 14, so that's 1.5, well, 1 and 1.3 or whatever, but I haven't fully spaded the machine at all. You know, I've only got some of the key components, still missing these two, which are very key for this machine. So, in my experience, I've had a pretty good time when it comes to my service record, but from me flying it, I don't feel like I'm having a good time. And that's basically because of the win rates. A lot of the win rates around this tier for a lot of these vehicles is not very good. The 4B is at 68% because I was squadded up and being able to push through and win a lot of battles. But stuff like the A26B, as you can see, which is a very similar BR, or the PBJs, which are a little bit lower, you can see the win rates are not as good. The 82 being 40%, which once again is around this BR. The 84, I think, as well, which I've used a lot for ground pounding, just to try and spade it out, if I can find it anywhere. I know I basically just hit bases with it. You can see 50% there. You know, these are not great numbers, at least in my opinion. So the F4U4B, even though it's got low stats, looking at the win rate personally on it, it looks good. But when you look at everything around it, the win rates are not good. So for me, the cannons are nice. The issue with the Corsair is it takes too long to get into position. So you may rack up 1, 2, or 3 kills with it, but you're going to lose the match because the rest of your team is dead. And this is something I've run into a lot with this machine, and it's really infuriating. At least it does have a nice camo. I hope that in the future this thing actually gets lowered again. I don't think it requires the repair cost it has at 5.7. I really don't think this is on the same caliber as something like an A6M5 Otsu or anything similar like that. So for me, it's kind of odd to see it go up again, especially since it's already incredibly expensive to use. I understand its multi-role capability. It's just, you know, I just disagree with it. If you want to keep it at the same level, fair enough. But apart from that, it seems kind of odd. Some of the jets are going up, like the FJ4B and stuff like that, but it's not that big of a deal. The main big of a deal is the B29 again. So the B29, after being reduced a few times over the last few months, is now back up to where it started. 6,900 up, meaning that its stock repair cost is 51,000 Silver Lions. It's hit the 50k mark. Now, a lot of people are surprised by this. I just need to point out, so I did a video, I did a video on the ME264. I talked about the stats that I have in it, I showed the stats that I have in it, and also the concept of the ME264 video was to show that it's very easy to play that thing and not die. So giving it a repair cost of anything, it doesn't really matter. You could give it 1 million repair cost and you could just fly it to not die. And therefore, if you don't die, you don't have to pay the repair cost. The B29 is exactly the same way. And I know a lot of people don't like hearing this, and that's completely fine. Showed by the like and dislike of the ME264 video. There's a lot of people in the comments talking about how repair costs shouldn't be used to balance vehicles. You know, that was not the argument of the video. The argument of the video was why this thing has such a high repair cost in the current system. It's the same with the B29. You can climb incredibly high with it, and you can just sit there and wait. That's it. It's why for a long time I refused to fly this thing, and I still pretty much refuse to fly it today, just because I think it's not. It just doesn't fit the game. It should have never been added to the game, and the only way to balance it is by pricing it out of existence. If you put it at higher tiers, then all you get is just the TU4, and therefore it will, trade 1 for 1. It'll do okay. It may bomb some bases. It may end the game. Who knows? It's just kind of crazy. So for me, the only way to balance this thing is to price it out of the game. And yes, I understand that means that only a few people will use it, but they'll use it in that way, and it will be an incredible negative experience for the people who are playing against it. But if you do it the other way and you make it so it's incredibly cheap to use, so everyone can partake in it, then you're going to get 4 a game because this in a 4-man or this with 4 planes can end games just by themselves in the first 5 to 10 minutes of a game. So I think this is like a lose-lose situation where they pick the side which is going to cause the less damage to the general community. Remember when the B-17 spam was a thing back 4-5 years ago at this point? It wasn't fun to fight against, and if you lower the B-29 too much, you run into the area where you have 4 of these in a game, and that's all you need, and you'll be able to decimate the game. If you want an example of the B-29 with a low repair cost, go and see the Farman. So the Farman, which is right here, this machine, 3 of them can end a battle in 5 minutes. They have, as you can see, 50 kilos. This is enough to kill 3 bases, and then just 2 of them by themselves can kill an airfield. You don't have to go on, you don't have to go and land at an airfield or rearm or anything like that. In this machine, you can end the battle in 5 minutes on the small maps. So if you want situations like that, but with the B-29, good luck to you. I don't, and that's why I think adding it in the first place was a mistake, and pricing it out of the game is the only way of really fixing the mistake, because you aren't able to take it. What's the word? You aren't able to now take it out of the game now that people have it. So even if you took it out for people to research, it's still there for a lot of people. But yeah, it's a sad case for the B-29, but then again, should it ever have existed in the first place? At least we have a cool cockpit for it. B-57As are also getting decreased, which is nice, now that a lot of stuff has been reduced to 8.7. They are going to need as much help as they can get, because obviously they sit at 7.7 and 8.0. So seeing the B-57s and also the Canberras go down is at least nice for top-tier bombers. And then if we have a look at the next one, let's see, that's the wrong thing, let's go here. The next one is the tanks, the T-34. Now let's have a look at that. The T-34, which if we go down here, is right here. So the T-34 is going up by 1,000, so it's going up to 8,000 stock. The T-34 I think is a fun vehicle. It does get shot quite a lot, so therefore you can make some SL by just getting hit and also score from just getting hit. I generally think that it can make back 8,000 quite easily. Spaded, if we have a look at it here, it sits at 9,984, so it doesn't gain a lot when it comes to when it gets spaded, so you don't have to worry too much about it. I should actually bush this up. And yeah, I've when it comes to bushes and stuff, I've just kind of gone, I might as well use them, everyone else is using them. There we go. So with the T-34, I think it's, even though its repair cost has gone up and a lot of people are going to think, oh, well, I'm not going to be able to use it anymore, I still think it's fine. It's still a fine vehicle to use. It's still not plus 10k repair cost. If you get 1 kill and get shot a lot, you'll be able to easily make that back. The T-32 and T-32E1, though, this seems to be like, when you've hammered in a nail into a person's head, and you're not sure if they're dead or not, so you double tap them with another nail. Maybe you get a nail gun out and use the use the pressure just to make sure. That feels like what's happening to the T-32 right now. The up tier, I don't think was required. I really don't think was required. And then after that, we now have a repair cost increase. So the T-32 is 18,720 repair cost when it's fully spaded. The T-32E1 is, at least mine, which doesn't have a lot of upgrades, because when I first started playing it, I realized I wanted to play other things, even though it's a fun vehicle. It's 17,509 Silver Lions, which is just crazy to me at the end of the day. So they've already made it the same price as the M103. Sorry, the same BR as the M103. And as you can see with the M103, I nearly have all of the key upgrades. You know, I have the heat if required, then the elevation, parts and FPE filters. Nearly got these two, and then need the rangefinder, and then everything else is kind of surplus apart from maybe tracks. And that's 5,475. For me, there is no reason to use this vehicle now. Like, what is the reason? Like, the M103 has a better shell. It has it has about the same reload, maybe a second less. It has a much better heat shell. It actually has a heat shell. Its armor, in my opinion, is better because you should be hulled down a lot in it. It's got very similar gun depression, slightly worse. It has the same turret rotation. Like, the speed may be an issue, but that can be done with upgrades, and it's not like the T-32's running around at crazy speeds. So yeah, when this is where I think a little bit of nuance could have been had when selecting these repair costs, because you've already up-BR'd this, you've already made it at a BR where, in my opinion, it's already outclassed by one of its own vehicles in the tree, and also you've now made the repair cost so it's 3 times the level of it. Like, this needed somebody to step in and go, maybe this is a bit of an issue, you know, and instead what we've had is we've had 1 hammer to the head, and now we've had 2 hammers to the head for the T-32s. Very, very sad to see. And as you can see, the M103 actually went down while these two went up, so yeah, wonderful stuff. The T95, the T95, which is right here, you can see it's gone up by 1,260. Right here, 1,260 up to 12,000. And for me, the T95 has kind of at least had a resurgence for me. I've enjoyed it a lot. I think it's a fun vehicle to use in general, especially at the BR that it has, and I've never really had any issue with making money with it, because you get shot so much, you get SL from that, and also, you know, you can normally get a decent amount of shots off. You will occasionally have that game, though, where you just get bombed and die, and you don't get anything done, so that can be an issue with repair cost, but you hope that that doesn't happen too much when it comes to it. I think upping its repair cost is not too bad. We're going to have to see how this affects it. I hope that people go towards more like the T95s and stuff like that now, instead of the T32s, but we'll have to see how it goes with those machines. The next one is moving on to the helicopters. So this is just a general thing with the helicopters. You know how I said before with the helicopters, a lot of them are getting down modification, or all of them are getting reduced amounts of modifications and also RP for researching them. Well, the helicopters in general, when it comes to their repair costs as well, for every nation, are decreasing. So, as I said, this is the best time in War Thunder's history to grind out these helicopters. So if there's a specific nation that you want to try, this is the way to go. I've seen a lot of people use the Alouettes, the German one, but mainly because it gets ATGM stock, so it's actually useful stock. So, yeah, give it a go, why not? The next one to talk about is some ME262s. So we have the C2B, which is this machine right here. It's going down by 2,000, so this is a positive change for it. Once again, this is going to be one of those vehicles that is heavily affected by a lot of the vehicles getting moved to 8.7. So it's at 8.0, so it's going to get updated a lot, and it won't get that quantitative matchmaking buff because there aren't many. Well, there are a decent amount of 9.0s, but you're going to be facing a lot of 8.7s, so you can see as many 8.7s as possible. Think about this, all the MiG-15s now are 8.7. You know, you're going to get updated a decent amount in your C2B and even your C1A, so seeing its repair costs go down is a positive, and hopefully it still does okay at that BR. The CL-13 is going up, not a surprise there, especially since people will have been grinding out its air-to-air missiles. The TARs. So the TARs again. Now the TARs are an interesting case. People don't believe me when I talk about the TARs, and that's completely fine, but the TARs are crazy good. They're incredibly good vehicles. Their high altitude performance is great, and the general thing that they have going for them is that they can get above the enemy really quick, and then once they're above the enemy, they can go down and they can attack anything they want, and they can just basically be true hunters of the air. A lot of people sleep on these aircraft. Why? Is this a bug? Maybe might be a bug. But let's just do that. It's only 14,000, so it's not that big of an issue. But anyway, the TARs are true hunters of the sky. They're incredibly fun to fly. The only issue is if you don't get up to that, higher echelon of altitude. Then, you might struggle a little bit. But these, to me, are kind of hidden gems. A lot of people talk about the K4. A lot of people talk about, the 335s and their airborne, maybe the other BF109s, such as the G series, but the TARs are just really fun. And also, at 5.7, you know what you miss out on? The 7.0 jets. So, one of the biggest issues, as I said, with the P51H is that it gets dragged up into 7.0s because the Shooting Star exists, because the F3D exists, because the F84B exists, and people like flying these. The B57 exists. For Germany, you have the 8.0s and the 7.0s as well of stuff like the ME262A1A. You have the Horton at 7.3, the Polk at 6.7. All of these machines, the Arado 6.7, Arado 7.3, all of these can face a P51H. But you know what can't be dragged up into that level? A TAR 152. There aren't many 6.7 jets, right? And the only real one that you have, or the real two you have, are the Yak 17 and the Yak 15. I'm sure there are some other examples, like the HE162. But the main thing is, it's very hard to get up tiered in the TARs unless you're getting up tiered into 6.3, and you can still deal okay with P51H. I would say it's slightly worse than this. You can also get up tiered into Griffin Spitz, but guess what? Now they're limited due to quantitative matchmaking, and you'd have to be bottom BR for that. So all of these factors have gone in favor of the TAR for a very long time. And it's the reason why it dominates so well, because it cannot be up-tiered into jets. And a lot of the vehicles that can get up-tiered into jets that are props get up-tiered into those battles. Therefore, it fights a lot between the 4.7 and 5.7 brackets. That is why these machines have such a high repair cost. They're incredibly good. Incredibly good. Give them a go. You'll have 10 free repairs with them. If you don't want to, if you don't want to fly them, or if you don't want to try them, fair enough. But I would say just give them a go. They're really fun to use. Even if it's just for those 10 free repairs. Are they 30,000 good? I mean, there's only a few machines in game which have that title. I'm not sure the TARs are up there yet, because they still, in one-on-one situations, the TARs, if they don't have the altitude advantage, can really struggle. So maybe not 30,000 good, but they're still very, very good. The ME264. So the 264, if we can find it right now. So the ME264 is going down by 5,000. So with its BR increase, it's going down in BR. It's going up to 4.0. It was previously 3.7, which was insane. 4.0 is still insane for this vehicle, and at least it's going down by 5,000 silver lions, so the people who are playing it wrong don't get their purses hurt too much. As I've said before, with the 264, I have a video talking about it. You shouldn't die in this thing if you play it correctly. It is incredibly hard to die in this machine, from spawn to dropping bombs to getting back to airfield. So it doesn't matter what the repair cost is until they change that fundamental mechanic of how long altitude bombers works. Doesn't matter what the repair cost is. Same with the HE177. Exactly the same with the HE177. I'm not sure. 177, as you can see, I've died 50 times in it. I've had 71 battles, so I've survived 20 times. I've made 1.75 million silver lions in it. Right? So per what would that be? I'll just get a calculator out here. Otherwise, I'm gonna look like a bit of a doofus. So it's 1,750,000 divided by 40 because of the 10 free repairs. So I'm making 43,750 silver lines a pop. So that's still above it's still above this repair cost, the core repair cost. And then if we have a look at the max repair cost, because obviously it's spaded, it is at 47,500. So I'm making slightly less than that, but I've also died a lot in stupid ways, such as ground realistic. And the 264 is at 47,000 max repair cost too. So, as I said before, the issue with these vehicles is never going to be repair cost. The issue with them is always going to be the long-range altitude spawn, which means that a lot of the times they don't die. The BV-238 is also going down, I believe, if I remember correctly. I'd just like to thank B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Reinman, Leonard Rudnick, Martinez, Matati, Moxie, Nick Graham, Alobrilo, Super Cacti, Elove Goats, and Seductive Trashcan for supporting the channel.